Oh, good golly, it's time for an Equity.Guru Investor Roundtable. I'm Rob. That's Vishal upstairs. That's Chris up there in the corner fixing his collar. He's the guru himself. He's a little confused. I just blew his eardrums out. And over here on my left is Galen, who is making in the basement what?
I'm putting bars on the windows, man.
Bars on the window.
I thought you were saying he was making in the basement, which I was like, oh.
Well, you got to go somewhere.
That's old terminology.
Got to go somewhere.
He's making out in the basement. We're talking about TIDL, that is Tiidal Gaming, under Tom Hearn, the CEO out of Toronto, Ontario. Around the website Equity.Guru, you can catch Mr. Hearn talking to Chris Perry on The Gauntlet. And with that in mind, Chris Perry is going to start us off talking about Tom Hearn and Tiidal Gaming.
Okay, well, Tom, the Hitman Hearn, actually no relation, but those of us who were around in the 70s will understand the Tom Hearn that we all know and love.
Love him.
So he's formerly of The Score, which is a company that perplexed me for many years as being a specialty sports TV channel that figured it out there was no real way forward in TV, became an app, amassed a great big valuation on the back of that. I'm not quite sure how, because who the hell uses apps? And then moved into betting. I'm pretty sure at some point we become a cannabis company or a mushroom company or a bank, or I don't know. Like it's pivot central over there. Here's the thing though. Every time they pivoted, another $100 million would materialize, and the value of the company would drive up into the stratosphere. And eventually, they got a $2 billion exit with Penn Gaming, owners of Barstool Sports. So, who the hell am I to judge anybody when those guys have been printing money for the last several years? So now along comes Tom Hearn. What's he going to do next? He could go to this big thing or that big thing. He's gone to Tiidal Gaming, which is admittedly an esports deal that's been bumping around the bottom for a couple of years before it's gone public. I think we talked to them maybe 3 years ago at a Cambridge House conference when it was essentially just an esports team. And true to form, a little bit of pivoting's going on. My assessment of esports teams is I don't want to be investing millions of dollars in 15-year-olds who could quit at any time if they have finals or a girlfriend or a barista job to deal with. So I asked Tom about that on the Gauntlet, and he agreed that just having a team in and of itself is not really a pathway to riches. The team, however, is a means of garnering influencer awareness. So most of the esports teams spend more time creating content than they do actually competing. And in fact, that's where the money is. If you've got a stream that gets 100,000 people, that's where you're going to get your cash. Not on a Dota 2 tournament with a $10,000 prize for the one of 64 teams that makes it to the end. So what Tiidal is doing is they're not abandoning the esports team by any stretch, but they're using it as part of I guess you could say an esports roll-up of sorts, where they're also dealing with betting and they're dealing specifically with esports betting, providing the ability for companies that are out there in the online gaming world to present esports odds that one can gamble your money on alongside the NFL and MLB and anything else you might want to bet on. But also an added bonus is that through an acquisition, they have a facility to bet on yourself. So if Galen and I want to play Rocket League against each other and I think I can clean his clock, I can.
Yeah.
We can lay good money on that, and I can actually benefit out the other side. Their system, Bet on Yourself, allows you to create odds based on your history, your previous games, and put together a market for just you and your friends. So if 8 of us are going to have a FIFA tournament on a Friday afternoon after work, we can use the service to go in and figure out who's most likely to win, get an odds-based market in place, and then we can lay down our money. I lay my money on Vishal because look where he's doing the stream from. He's literally a home-based video gamer, I can tell. And Rob is not. So Tidal is it's an interesting deal in that it has a few components that aren't necessarily dragging in the millions in market cap right now. But I think that, if you look at the pedigree of the CEO, where he's come from and what he's likely to do, certainly someone who's been able to generate market cap before, generate investment before, pivot a business plan to a point where he can get a nice big exit before, all the things that you'd hope for. There's a lot of shit in esports, to be sure, and a lot of shit in the sports betting markets, to be sure. Combine the two of them in a way that's actually functional and maybe adds an element to traditional video gaming, I can get behind that.
What was the game you're playing against Galen, by the way?
Rocket League.
Yeah.
Cars playing soccer.
Rocket.
The tables would turn if we were playing NHL 21, but that's okay.
I was thinking like bubble hockey. We're playing bubble hockey.
Ooh, the Xbox in the office is going to get some play on Friday.
Oh, there we go.
All right.
Yes.
I would like to build on what Chris was saying. Speaking of Dota, which he commented on earlier in the e-games or esports gaming community, it's a very popular game. One I've never played actually, called Defense of the Ancients, I believe, is the original what the title is. But it's gone on to be called Dota, and we are now in Dota 2, and it's a very popular game. And what the Tiidal has managed to do, just announced it today, that they've managed to get the first odds provider to deliver player prop markets for Dota 2, meaning that you can now bet on player kills. What did they say? Over on every map. You can do it on Tier 1 Dota 2 games within major esports competitions as well. And they cover over 3,000 fixtures per year. So there you go. They've opened their market even more. They've actually made a decent sort of agreement that can generate revenue for them. And as Chris said, guys are going to be betting against each other, going, I can kick your ass and kill a lot more people than you can. And in the end, somebody gets paid. But the nice thing about it, Tiidal gets a slice on every bet.
You get the juice.
Exactly. Also, as Chris said, they're a sort of not an offshoot, but I guess as the pedigree goes, the source. So Tom Hearn has a great deal of experience within this arena, no pun intended, and is able to probably take this forward into another billion-dollar exit. I mean, he wasn't necessarily there at the end, apparently, when the billion-dollar exit, but he certainly helped build it to that point. So he knows how to put this stuff together. I listened to the interview that Chris actually did with him just recently, and also the one that Jody did, I believe, and was impressed with his knowledge and his ability to sort of carry this vision forward. He knows really what he wants to hit, and he has a specific goal in mind. He's not just trying to cover the market and get going. Now, as Chris said, they did pivot a little bit, but everybody was trying to figure out where the hell they needed to be in this market anyway. And at first, just like was with cannabis and growing the cannabis, everybody thought the teams were the things to jump on. And in the end, as Chris said, 15-year-olds are pretty unreliable, and so you don't necessarily want to base your fortunes on somebody that just may want to, eat ice cream and not play video games. Yeah. So no financials yet. They're brand new on the market. They're still starting out. So we have yet to see the performance end of their business and whether or not the success will follow. So, there's that risk that you have to consider. But it seems pretty well primed to get to where it's going. The best measurement, I suppose, would be see where the company sits in 6 months, in the second half of the year, to see if they've executed on their promises and managed to build. Whether or not they're hitting a positive bottom line or not, that's, I'm willing to give a little cushion in the first year or so for them to start making a profit per se. But, if they're bringing revenue through the door, then it's a going concern for what it is, and may deserve your look as far as that's concerned.
So from Michelle's standpoint, it's a little complicated because we don't have results really to factor into this, but you can still.
We don't have the results, but we have a technical pattern, and I'll take that any day.
I know you will.
Yeah, it's looking really nice, actually. I can't remember the last time we spoke about them, but I think they were just in this sort of prolonged downtrend. Maybe there wasn't any near support or resistance levels that we could really work with because, as Galen mentioned, that it's a relatively new stock, right, that began trading. Fast forward a few weeks or months now, I think, later, and we look like we have a base here set up. So just recently, we had a big day, a big sell-off here on the 15th of February, 2022. I believe that was about 362,000 shares were traded on that day. You can just see here, basically in the last few weeks here, February 28th, and then also on March 2nd, we had a few other six-figure shares traded per day. 101,000 shares traded on the 28th of February, and then 296,000 shares traded on March 2nd. So I'm looking at the chart here. We hit record lows basically on the 23rd of February, hitting lows of 13 cents. And since then, we have begun to basically bottom, in my opinion. I'm going to zoom in here just to sort of show you the type of structure I see here. And you guys sort of remember me always talking about, what's called a head and shoulder pattern. But in this case, it's the reverse of a head and shoulder. So it's an inverse head and shoulder. Essentially, you have, your left shoulder here. You have your head, which looks like a V that protrudes out. And then on the right side, you have a right shoulder here. So the stock is actually looking like it's about to break out. It's a pre-breakout, about to break out from a major technical zone. You can see here on the 3rd of March, we looked like we were going to take out these highs here at 18 cents where I have my resistance or price ceiling. But unfortunately, we closed lower on that day. But the buyers are back 3 days after to bring the stock back up to 18 cents. And in fact, today, we had, on the day of recording, a 9% day on the stock, and it's trading right at that resistance zone at 18 cents. So we have a reversal pattern here. We have some decent volume coming in. We basically just printed record lows, a few weeks ago, and two more confluences here. We are technically crossing over my moving average, and just a simple way to use moving averages. If it's under your moving average, as you can see how price was most of the time here, it's usually a sell. But when you cross your moving average and you're above it, on that cross, it's usually a buying opportunity. So we have a moving average cross, and we also have this downtrend line, which I've drawn out for you. So a lot of positive technical confluences. And on the trading side of things, even though we don't have the numbers out or any earnings numbers, on the charts and trading in general, you're looking for confluences, right? It's a business of probabilities. So if you have these multiple, I guess, bullish factors, as we mentioned, right? Lows, volume, head and shoulder pattern, your moving average cross, and your downtrend line breakout, perhaps, that's a pretty good setup in my book. So things are looking quite exciting here for Tiidal Gaming, and the next few days here are going to be quite important to see if we can get a breakout above 18 cents and then find some momentum and sustain that move to basically a new uptrend.
Nice. It'll be fun to watch the gauntlet. If you have not seen the gauntlet yet, watch the gauntlet with Tom Hearn and Chris Perry, who is going to tell us right now, with that in mind, the disclaimer, how much money you're going to spend on this stock as we speak. You're muted.
Oh, you're muted.
Hi again. Sorry, I was typing while you guys were talking, and I didn't want to be offensive and make it appear that I wasn't
It's
listening.
okay. We know you don't love us.
We're all offended. But go ahead.
All right. So, look, the market cap on Tiidal right now is $11 million.
Oh, wow.
And I think that is pretty damn cheap for a company that, with one or two deals on the betting side, could certainly make that much in revenue. I feel like they're in the early stages of building something that's going to be important. I'm not a big fan in general of esports deals, just because there's been so much bullshit thrown about. I, for what it's worth, live, eat, and breathe esports. I'm on Twitch way more than I should be. I sit and watch esports more than I watch regular sports with my kids, because I want to be relevant to them. And, I play a bunch of games right now. I feel like we're in a dark period for video games in general. Everything is basically either a sequel or a ripoff of something that came before it.
Yeah.
And I don't see anything brand new on the esports front that's going to take the world by storm. So investing in esports generally, but I don't think that's going to be a forever situation. And I think these guys are in a good place to take advantage of the inevitable renewal. Is if we look at the actual stock chart itself and where they're at right now, I honestly think that it's too early to really get a good sense. But I do think that at this valuation that this is, I think, pretty close to the downest that I can reasonably expect this to be. So if I'm going to buy in on esports, I'm going to buy in on this deal. And if I'm going to buy in on this deal, now is the time to do it. I'd throw 3K at it, and the other 4K, just mess around waiting for the dips.
Galen?
Okay, just again, building on what Chris was talking about and also what Vishal was talking about. In terms of where this company is on the charts, it seems to have, I think, reached a support level that is well supported by the individuals who are holding the stock. Now, the sell-off that Vishal was discussing on February 15th was, for me, just the selling on news. They announced a large partnership again with Skirmish Games, I believe, on the 14th. So they would be able to cover featured games such as Fortnite, Call of Duty, Warzone, which are pretty popular items. And I think I just wanted to get some cash back at that point in time. So sent the stock, a bit of a dip. But as you said, within days, investors built it right back up again. And I have a feeling that it hit that support zone and had to have a little bit of resistance because people are trying to get over the mental idea of getting up over that line. But basically, it doesn't really show any reason that it wouldn't at this point in time. And it's also shown that if it does get a bit of a punishing for reasons that are reasonable, because, selling the news, and it still manages to fight its way out of it, then it's probably hit its basement and it's got nowhere else to go but up, basically. That if you buy in at this point in time, you're probably not going to lose your shirt. You may have to wait a bit, but it's most likely an accretive proposition if you're wanting to get in on this company. I'm not big on the esports thing myself. Video games have hit sort of a dark time, as Chris said. There's not much out there that's really, tweaking my interests, and game companies at this point have a horrible habit of releasing something well before it's fucking ready. And
how about Elden Ring, man?
Yeah, Elden Ring
Elden Ring is the exact same game as 4 other games. Like,
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Like, enough with the battle royals, enough with the Call of Duties, a little bit of... Here's the thing with video games, right? You can create a world that will allow you to do anything you've ever wanted to do, ever, and have it feel realistic. And what are we still doing? We're shooting zombies and playing fucking Farmville.
There needs to be an evolution of the gaming community in terms of what they feel is going to be entertainment. There are some Japanese titles that try and take it that far. For instance, Death Stranding, but to a place where I just was so esoteric that I didn't really get it and wasn't really interested in playing. It was a complete
We're in a
open
world where there's 15 Final Fantasies. Can we define the word final, please?
Yeah, exactly. It's just time. It's time to break new ground in terms of what we're competing for and against. Because if I see another fucking zombie shooter, I'm going to throw up. I'm done with that.
At least if zombies ever do turn up, we're well trained for it.
Yeah, I guess.
But enough now. Let's have some Russian shooters. I guess.
I got the answer for this.
The mobile gaming world is even worse. There's literally 3 mobile games in the world, and every other game is a direct rip-off of them.
Yeah. So what is it? That's the question. That's the question that game developers need to be asking themselves now, rather than trying to jump on the tail of another hit, or just trying to sequel the living crap out of whatever they put out that was actually made a dent in the community. There really has to be some major reworking of what that is.
The map is there, right? Minecraft's still in the top 5, 7 years later, and worth billions. And also, Grand Theft Auto is still in the top 5.
Yep. We're still
not
waiting
because
for the
people aren't necessarily playing Grand Theft Auto, but because they're role-playing in it.
Yeah.
Right? They're modding it and turning it into a role-playing world. So the entire
I think that's actually probably the way it's going to head. To the point where it's going to be a world-building game based on players' preferences. Yeah, right. That you can actually mod yourself. You can extend out. You can create different ways of playing it. Different goals, that kind of stuff. So I think that's what's on the horizon. That's probably going to be the next, game changer.
You know what that
as
isn't?
it were.
That isn't esports friendly.
Well, no, absolutely it isn't. And you know, it's more of a open community, more of an open source idea, which is probably not going to be popular amongst the games developers because the source code's out there. So I don't know. What's that to say about what Title is doing now? Have we just knocked
Well,
on the
so
company or
title at
what?
least it allows itself to attach to whatever comes next, right?
Yep.
Like it's not a mod, but it's going to be an addition to the gameplay experience, which I think is smart.
I guess you're right. It is agnostic in that regard. So if the tide does shift, they can move with it. So for me right now, it's pretty early stage, so I'm not going to jump all in. I want to see how things go on. It doesn't have any indication that shit's going to go sideways, but as I would like to think a prudent investor, I'm just not going to throw it all at once. So I'm going to start with, like Chris, probably $3,000. See where it goes over the next while and build my position. If it, as you know, has done as its executive has done in the past, built a bigger and better product, then I will continue to add to it. Settle down now. Settle down now.
I was trying to say
Settle
monkey
down now.
see, monkey do. So
Yeah.
the E player see, E player do.
Yeah.
Okay, so 3K each. Your turn, Michelle.
Well, I'll be a hypocrite if I said the technical setup here looks great. The confluences, we have multiple of them, and I don't put any money down, right? So I'm going to say I like the setup here as a trade. I'm going to put in 2K right now. And if we get a close above 18 cents, which could actually just happen, you know, the day after we're recording this, I'm going to throw in 2 more K and ride that for the technical breakout. And then I'm going to save, the rest of the 3K that I have left, or 3,500, sorry. Wait for that first earnings report and then play it from there. But I hope that by the time the earnings come out, maybe as a trade, we create a leg higher, perhaps up to like 25 cents, and from there I can begin to siphon off some profits again, just as a trade. And then when the earnings come out, I can decide whether I want to hold this for a bit longer for the longer term as an investment. So 2K right now. 2K on that break of 18 cents, and then from there, wait till the first earnings report comes out.
Look at you, trade guy.
And what would